here. Welcome to Ladies and Lattes. I have so many familiar faces here. I'm just so happy. Hi. If this is your first time here, we're very excited that you can join us tonight. Tell me if that's you. Is this your first time? Oh, yay, praise God. We're so happy that you came. Excellent. Well, we hope it won't be your last. In fact, you should have a postcard in front of you that says when the next one is. So if you like what you see, and we really have been praying that you do, then please come back. But for those who have been here with us before, when this ministry began last spring, you'll recall that we talked with panelists, very similar to this group up here, about juggling all that we do in a day with joy, which is hard, as well as handling or dealing with the curveballs that get thrown at us. We learn that we must rely on God in all that we do. And I have been so blessed by what the women who are up here share with us that all summer long I found myself quoting them. Did you? I did, and I missed it. I missed not having ladies and lattes. And that's what happens here. We talk with a panel of women about the topic of the evening, and we see how God has moved in their lives, and we walk away from the gathering a little richer for having shared in the conversation. So, let me take this opportunity, though, to thank all the people responsible for getting this evening to happen, because it is a big undertaking. First of all, there's my amazing team. There's Sharon Dahm and Jill Huffman. I don't know where they are, but yay. Oh, there they are, yay, okay. Back there, too. They are really the brains and the brawn behind this operation. I might be the face of Ladies and Lattes, but they are truly the heart of it, and I thank them. We also need, sorry, getting a little verklempt. We also need to thank Ed Mink and his crew for getting all the chairs and tables in place. And the reason the place looks so inviting is due to Doreen. Raise your hand, Doreen. She's just lovely, thank you. She made all these table arrangements. Doesn't she have a true gift from God? And then there is Judy, wave Judy, and her whole team of greeters. Wave if you were a greeter, yay. I really am sure, as I got to meet these lovely greeters, that they greeted you all with a smile. And then there is Casey and Lisa and Lana, who served us. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. And Allison, I'm sorry, my new glasses are coming in a week. I'm sorry. But I'm sure that they whipped up some yummy goodness for you, so thank you for sharing your time with us. And there's the most amazing sound and video crew in Todd Mackey and Jim Hall back there, who helped us out tonight. I couldn't ask for a better duo, so thank you so much. And we can't forget about the biscotti makers, Jill and Jean and Doreen. Those yummy treats, they were absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. And we are indebted to Adrienne and Abby and their staff of childcare workers tonight, are we not? Praise God for them. And we are so thankful to Trisha, raise your hand, Trisha and Jamie. They are our cleanup crew, so don't leave too much of a mess. But thank you for helping with that. And of course, we need to thank our panelists for agreeing to be with us and not running in the opposite direction when we asked them if they would help us out tonight. You'll meet them in just a little bit. So big round of applause for everybody who made this happen. And forgive me if I've left anyone out. Okay. So, are you ready? You really need to brace yourself. To get things going for this evening, I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about none other than bathing suit season. That is what I said. No. There's a method to my madness. Just, be with me for a minute. It's finally behind us. Praise God. Yeah. And I'm pretty thrilled about that. And speaking of behind us, I spent much of the summer on and off doing the Brazilian butt lift. It's a video series, right? And Leandro from Brazil would lead me through crunches and push-ups and odd dancing that no non-Brazilian should ever think that her body could do, but I did that. And Leandro became a household name when I would get perpetually mad for not being able to move later in the day from one of his intense workouts. I would wince when I would get up from a chair and poor Katie, my 8-year-old, like, that Leandro is killing you, Mommy. The poor guy down in Brazil has no idea how despised he is all the way up in my Midwestern American home. And when you get started, the reason for the pencils, you're probably like, huh, pencils? The reason, when you get started with the Brazilian butt lift program, they actually give you a pencil that says Brazilian butt lift on it, and they want you to put it back there to see how much your butt needs lifted. If it rolls right off, well then, sister, you need to right? And so I took the pencil test, but I have yet to ever find the pencil again. It's somewhere in the recesses and folds of my very Italian, well-endowed bottom. Now, you might say, why bother to go through all of that humiliation and hard work, killing yourself to do those videos? And let me just tell you, Leandro, if you're out there, I'm so sorry. I love and adore you. You do a great job. It's really hard. But the appropriate answer for why I do this should be, appropriate answer, to be a healthy example to my daughter, to show her that there's an importance in exercising and living right. But if I'm honest, it's bathing suit season. That's why. I am tired of always passing by the cute suits en route to the skirted butt shrinker. And honestly, I didn't have that name, but thankfully the internet gave me that. That's actually the name of that suit. Underneath the isn't that funny? They were really trying to affirm me in what I'm trying to say here. There's nothing like feeling uncomfortable with the body you have and then going to the pool and seeing all those sun goddesses with not a single sagging thing on them, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm sure, yeah, I'm trying not to look at you, those of you who are here. Mm-hmm. I used to say to myself, right, to rationalize this, just wait till they have children. But then you see them running after people, the little ones, right? And you're like, well, surely they're the nanny. They have to be the nanny. They can't possibly. Or you tell yourself that, well, when they turn 40, their perky metabolism will just, disappear, and you're like secretly wishing for that to happen soon. But then you strike up a conversation with them, and they've been 40 for like 5 years. So you just think, so then you do like I did, and you joined a gym. I joined a gym yesterday. Because you're like, oh dear God, something has to change. But upon preparing for this topic for the evening, I realized that God created us just as we are. And he's quite happy with his workmanship. He truly is. To poo-poo your body is like poo-pooing God, the artist who created it. The Bible says that we are created in his own image, so we should embrace who we are. Celebrate yourselves, ladies. So, in the spirit of doing that, I plan to do something extremely courageous. Here is a picture of me in my bathing suit celebrating me. Aren't I lovely? Come on, ta-da! So embrace the person that you are by those skirted suits with pride, ladies. All right, so I'm not quite comfortable, obviously, in my own physical skin yet, but I am learning at least that I must embrace the person inside of my shell. And that's why we're here tonight. So see, they're all like breathing a sigh of relief. It's not about bathing suits, it's about personalities. That's why we're here. Ever wish you could be more talkative at parties? You often say, why can't I just be more at ease with mingling or making conversation? Why can't I just have the perfect words to utter that could make people laugh or nod their heads in agreement or something even close to that? Or conversely, if you're like me, and you have the personality where you say, why can't I be more poised at parties, more of a listener? Why do I always have to talk so much? Can't I just keep my mouth shut? It's that same gift that allows me to be up here with all of you that becomes a curse sometimes when I'm at parties. But the key is learning who you are. And once you learn who you are, you should use that personality for God's glory, whether it be in your career, at church, in your community, whatever. And then You should make every effort to learn the personality type of the people in your lives so that you can interact with them better and avoid conflict. And isn't that what it's all about? So that's our goal for the evening, is to learn who we are and then try to imagine then who the people in your lives are so that we can tolerate each other better. Think, for example, how you ended up here tonight. So there are these people who are in your lives, right? Were you told by someone very domineering that you just had to be here? And that person, I know. That person organized how you would get here, where you would sit, etc. There was really no negotiation on your part. You simply did as you were told. Well, you have a dominant mastermind in your life who drives you along. Or were you inspired by someone to be here because that person has such a way about her that you want to be wherever she is? She's got it going on, and her sales pitch really moved you. That's an influencer in your life who's a very, very expressive person. Then there are those of us who came simply to keep the peace. We hate conflict. We don't want to rock the boat. If she wants me to be here so badly, then for crying out loud, it's easier to tag along than to argue with her or find an excuse to get out of it. You would be the stable, amiable one. You'll find that out in a moment. Or, my favorite, were you skeptical about this whole evening? You were the one who wanted all the information on the event so that you could pick it apart, see if it was worthy of your time. And then when you got here, did you look around with a critical eye at all the details and find the one thing that we missed? Maybe the biscotti out of place. Or the spelling error or something on the worksheet, whatever. Well, you are the analytical perfectionist. And my prayer for you is that we can distract you a little from yourself tonight so that you can relax and have some fun. So we have with us this evening ladies who've taken a personality inventory, and they fall into one of those four categories. It's an inventory that our church uses, so we wanted you to be able to see an example of each of these personality types. The personality inventory is called the DISC, so you have a handout in front of you where you're going to see if you're more closely aligned with the D, the I, the S, or the C. And we have a gentleman who will be joining us in a moment named Pastor Paul Worley, and he's very versed in these tests, these various personality tests, and he's been invited to speak to us about these this evening. The Bible says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." And that is from Psalm 139, verse 13. So let's find out, shall we, what inmost being God created in each and every one of us. First, I want to introduce our panel. Help me welcome, in order of their personality, Renee Krause, Jamie Batchelder, Tammy Owens, and Julia Ciferno. And we're going to talk with them in just a moment, but I want to introduce our special guest star for the evening, the Dr. Oz of personality tests. Pastor Paul Worley is coming, yay! I tried to spare him from having to sit up here and listen to all that bathing suit talk, so that's why he's coming from. Could you even imagine? Tunnel vision. Right now, tunnel vision, he says, is what he has at this precise moment. Okay. Pastor Paul's background is in counseling and psychology, but he learned a great deal about personalities all through his professional life. In fact, he has scored personality tests for about 20 years, so that's why we consider him an expert. And he has done so because in his career path, he has seen that there are a lot of people with whom he would be working who were maybe misplaced in the positions that they held at the various jobs where he was working. So he thought, well, let's see, their job doesn't seem to match the personality that they have. So he would transition people. And then that got him thinking that we should use this as a hiring tool as well. So our church does use this when they're seeking to hire somebody to see who would be the best fit for us. So we're just so glad that he decided to join a room full of women tonight instead of hanging out with the guys. So thank you very much. Okay, so my questions. Okay. Tell us, Pastor Paul, they all know that it's the DISC, but is that really the personality test of choice then for you, the DISC?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It is. My background is in counseling and psychology. And there is a little bit of a history where I have with test and measurements and going through different tests, but I have learned that the DISC really is effective. It's a simple tool. I mean, those of you that have taken it, and some of you have taken it too, there are 28 questions. It's easy to score. It's reliable. You're answering it yourself. So you're making a self-evaluation of yourself. And so, I mean, it really does not lie unless you are just fibbing on the test or you're having a bad day.
Well, that is a very good question, because how many of you are like, not consistent day to day, if you're like me? You know, all it takes is somebody who cut me off in traffic and forget it, right? So what if I do that en route to a DISC personality test and I'm like, there. How reliable is that?
Not reliable at all. No. Whenever I do give it to somebody, I do ask for them to be able to think clearly, put away the emotions if they can, or when they can.
Easier said than done.
And to put themselves in an ideal scenario. So you do have to imagine for work example, what would that ideal scenario be? And so you take it under those presuppositions rather than, angry because the guy had just cut you off down the road.
Yeah, try to ignore those things. Okay, so have you then ever seen someone, knowing that person pretty well, who didn't test correctly, who didn't really seem to...
Occasionally I do.
Yeah?
Sure.
And so do you retest, or do you force them to just believe that that's their personality? Just live with it, that the paper says so, embrace that,
You know what? I do benefit from knowing people, the people that I know ahead of time, and give it to them. And there have been, actually even here in the last few weeks, I have given it for a particular ministry group, and there were two that came out on it that were just completely...
In left field. They got cut off in traffic right before takeoff.
I don't know if they had their husbands fill it out for them, or I don't know.
Well, that's a very good point. So should you, because when I took mine, I filled it out, and I had a question on a few, but I had a hunch how I should answer. So I ran it by my husband and my daughter, and they immediately shouted the same, like as though, "Ugh." So I guess, and it did agree with what I was leaning towards. So is that something you should do, or should you strictly leave people out of it?
With the DISC in particular, you should leave initially, like you did. I mean, you initially...
I did.
You marked it, and then you double checked with your family.
Right.
But the rule is to take it based on how you see yourself. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Fortunately for you, you do have a stronger personality, right?
I have. I've been told.
Well, I shouldn't say fortunately, but easy for you and for your husband and for your daughter. Obviously, it would be easy for a D, an ID,
That's what
a DI.
I'm a DI.
It would be
learn
easy
that
for
as
your
we go.
family to be able to see it and to affirm how you've tested.
Yes, it's very true. But what I honestly need to tell you this, I'm coming clean, that I always saw myself as a C, and you'll understand as soon as we get through all of these what a C is, but I always saw myself as a C, and a C is a perfectionist, somebody who pays attention to the details. Well, Ds could care less about details, so I don't know how. So I did, and I wanted to ask you if there are others who are completely shocked by the personality that they are told that they are. And even though clearly my husband and my daughter agreed, and everybody agrees when they say, "Oh yeah, you're totally a D," and I'm like, "Really? I had no idea." Have you ever gotten that where people are just so completely shocked?
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten anybody who's completely disappointed, like, "Oh,
Yes.
really?" And so what do you do? That's where the counseling comes in.
That is where the counseling comes in. Yes.
You're just like, "Okay, lie on the couch. Tell me about your mother. It's fine." Okay. All right.
Am I done?
Okay, so Okay. So, you told me a story. Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to answer your question, yes.
Did I have a question? Okay.
I don't know. There was a question somewhere in there. It's more of a statement. But,
Okay.
Yeah, you asked, do I ever have people that are surprised or disappointed?
Oh, yeah, tell any story, any good stories.
But this is going to be on the internet, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I better be careful.
What stays in Paul's office,
Yeah.
what's said in Paul's office stays in Paul's office.
No, but I do have people that have been very upset. I have actually had people that have cried over it. Yeah, that they're disappointed. But yet, what they've read, pieces of it may resonate with them, and they still don't like what that person looks like, but they know that there's some truth there. The disc isn't 100%.
Okay.
It's rarely 100%. It's anywhere from, I would say, my experience has said, anywhere from 85 or 90 up to 100, but it's not always 100%. Just because there are certain categories that it will put you in. And think about all of humanity, especially in, or limit it to the American society. How many millions of people could potentially take this, and yet there are only a dozen or so categories for them to fit into.
Okay.
So there are some that do get surprised, some that do get that are disappointed, but the majority of the time, most see it and resonate with the majority of what they are reading.
Okay. Okay, so I guess now is as good a time as any to see what each of these really mean,
Okay.
so we can see why people either embrace it or shun what they are. So, tell us a little bit about a person who would get a D as their predominant score on a DISC personality test. And actually, if you would put the D slide up there, here's what it says. A person with a D has tendencies to get immediate results. Yeah. They cause action. They accept challenges. They make quick decisions. They question the status quo. They take authority. They manage trouble and conflict. They solve problems, and they operate on high energy, and they never get tired. All right, so can we think of a few people in our lives who are like that? Start thinking, so that way you can, or is that you, right? So Renee, tell us for just a moment, which of those traits do you really embrace? She's our D up here, Renee Krause.
Direct, driven, and let's see, getting immediate results. That's what I want. I don't always get it, but yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
and don't give me a lot of words. We want to get
facts.
you want to get the facts, want to get it done. Very driven. Now that's the D. I'm a DI.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that's one thing you need to know, that you won't necessarily test and be all one. You'll have one with a smidge of this, maybe a smidge of that. So you're to balance you. Am I right? Yes, please talk about that.
Let me clarify just for a moment.
Yeah.
With the disc, the theory is there is one predominant letter, D, I, S, or C, and then a secondary. So you will test one. It's almost like having a primary language and a secondary language. So keep that in mind.
So I can be fun.
All right, good for you.
Yes, I can.
That's
So
right.
under stress, I'm a total D. I have no fun.
Right.
So
you can only have fun when all the tasks are done, though, right?
yes, and so if I'm under pressure, my face and everything will tell you. A lot of time to discuss your feelings.
Exactly.
I really don't care at that point.
That's awesome. Now, I'm tested as a D too, and I know that I am, a natural, like I have to get everything done before I go to sleep, or I really just can't bother to go to sleep. Why bother? So and early on in my marriage, I would, at 9 o'clock at night, I'm noticing all the things that didn't get done. So I would start kicking it into high gear. Well, my husband, you'll learn, is an S, which is down that end of that table, you'll see. So he's looking at me like I'm absolutely crazy. What are you doing in laundry at 9 o'clock at night for? But I'm like, I never tire. There's no tiring on, I just go. I have a list and I've got to accomplish it. So he learned that that's just how I operate, and there's no messing with me. There's no changing me. But then he had to learn to his motto was he would shut down at 9 o'clock. Well, not if stuff needs to be done. He's not going to sit on the couch and watch me do all of that. So we had to, that was early on in the marriage. We're now learning, to meld together. That's Tammy and David are the same, so you'll learn about that. But anyway, so that comes naturally to me. Something else as a D that comes naturally to us is that we are naturally loud, I think. Loud, talkative. No.
You wouldn't. No, I'm not loud, right? No.
Yeah, she can be. She's toning it down for you, but I'm sure those of you who know me know we're naturally loud, we're naturally talkative no matter the situation. And we also, I was doing some studying about this, and the D is most associated with the lion as an animal. If you were an animal and you were a D, am I right about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And the irony is, last year at a leadership retreat, we were all asked to say what animal we thought we were. And out of the blue, I didn't know anything about this then, and out of the blue, I said, well, I think I'm a lion, because I would like to think that if a lion walked into the room, that people would notice. And when I walk into a room, I want people to notice. Right?
I feel like that too.
So
I feel like we're having confession time right
now. Sorry, I didn't get it all out.
Did you want to schedule with Pastor
Roy?
Roy?
Yeah, maybe you have a couch available that I can, okay. Anyway, so Renee, I want to ask you then, what comes naturally to you? We're naturally loud, but what are some other natural tendencies, behaviors that you think are a part of that personality that you have? Some things that you do that just come naturally that you know is not natural to some of the other personalities.
I go right up and I start taking control. I'll take leadership responsibility. Mm-hmm. Even all the way through my college career, I would fall into leadership. It wasn't that I was seeking it out, that's what would happen. I was in InterVarsity and the exec fell apart and I became part of the exec, and it was just very natural for me to be in leadership. And when I started in my position, I moved up. And it wasn't that I was seeking to move up, it just, leadership was, I enjoy leadership. I enjoy leading and directing, and I love to tell people what to do. You do. I just ask my husband.
Exactly. Well, speaking of that, tell us about your family life and how your personality does connect with all of that.
Well, my husband is a high S, but he has a little bit of a D above the line, so he can tell me to sit down and shut up. And we're a little different. We're a little odd. I work and he stays at home. Oh. And he's amazing. He does everything. He doesn't expect me to clean. I never clean. I don't do toilets. I don't have to do anything unless I want to. He's amazing.
That is wonderful.
But God has, if you've seen me around, I don't wear
We all want to be D now, right?
Yeah, if you've seen me around, I don't wear pants. God has called me to wear skirts for some reason, unless I exercise, because when fat rubs together and you're exercising.
Yeah.
But I believe that God has called me this way, so every day I'm reminded physically that Mike wears the pants in the family.
Oh,
I really
smart.
believe that he is still the head of our household.
Good for you.
Even though all I bring to the marriage sometimes is the paycheck, but hey, it keeps me in the marriage. No, I'm just kidding. No, we have a wonderful relationship.
It's your contribution, totally your contribution.
But Mike is wonderful, and we have a great relationship, and he just values me and just wants me to succeed and exceed, and
it's wonderful.
It is wonderful. And God,
great.
We didn't get married till I was 30 because it took God that long to prepare Mike
for the person that he was about to encounter.
Yes. And I did my own marriage counseling. We sat down because he lived at the Eastern Shore, and I said, okay, here's who I am. Can you handle it? We need to talk. And I said, and later on in life, I said, Mike, we get along so well. We're so great together because you're the giver and I'm the taker.
And that is so true, because my husband is exactly like your husband. He's that
God put us together, and
it's
he's
true.
Fabulous. So, and
yeah.
I'm hoping my children won't be totally screwed up, but we're working on it.
Well, and so that really begs the question that what do you think would happen if either of us, you need to answer this, what would have happened if either of us did not marry an S person?
You would have already been in my office,
Sorry, I'm laughing too loudly. I'm sorry.
You're loud.
I'm loud. I'm sorry. It's just who I am. Okay.
You know what I have seen over the years is that it seems as though opposites do attract with the disc. Not always, again, not 100% of the time, but it does seem that there's usually a talker and there's usually a listener in every relationship. There's usually an outgoing person, an extrovert. There's usually an introvert. And not just dating and marriage relationships, but think about your friendships as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Many times you will find that there are natural differences that actually attract. Now, it's those same differences that will cause the biggest fights, cause the biggest headaches. That's true, right?
Especially when the children were born. Oh. I found out how selfish I really was.
I'm surprised you have time for children, right?
Yeah.
As a D.
Yeah, really.
But typically, I mean, generally speaking, those opposites will attract.
Wow.
Now, if they don't, many times those you figure out how to either get along or you call it quits.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not talking necessarily marriage, but I'm talking relationships, friendships. Either you, let's say 2 Ds, can get along and do get along very well many times. I mean, you may be a D here and you get along with other Ds, but my guess is you guys have bumped heads before. You've had different solutions for problems, or you've thought about going from point A to point B 2 different ways,
That's
and you
exactly
figure
right.
out how to get around that.
That's right. And that's
That's where love comes in too.
well, right, and we're definitely going to talk about how all of this relates to love. He's so right. I mean, as D, how many times has your mouth gotten you into trouble?
Oh, are you
Where
kidding
you're
me?
so abrasive? I know, and we don't mean it, but we say what we're thinking.
I know the
There's
taste
no
of both
hiding
feet.
it, right?
I know the taste of both of my feet at one time.
At one That's awesome. Well, you did mention, okay, so she mentioned, that she also realized how selfish she was when she had children. So let's talk some about then the weaknesses of being a D, like the bad parts of being a D, things that you struggle with.
Being too direct, rolling over people. And people misunderstand me as being too forceful, too out there. And I've hurt some folks, and had to backtrack, and that's why God gives a reverse gear, and will you forgive me are good words to say.
Very good.
Because the Holy Spirit will convict.
Right.
Because I will bulldoze over and
Yeah, and yeah, you really need to be sensitive to that. So if you tend to have a D personality and you tend to be very flippant, which we can both speak to that it just happens. Sometimes you don't mean it, but you just say what you want to say.
our
Then
internal filter isn't working.
there's no
sometimes.
filter, that's exactly right. So if that happens and that's you, then you need to have a little humility and you need to pray to God for humility. And then He will bring it and He will use the Holy Spirit to guide you to make changes and go to those people. I've had to do that, and I'm sure you have too. That's what she just said, that you have to kind of be like the dog that, I don't know what the dog
Tail
does.
between your
Thank
legs.
you. Right? See, D's can be friends because they help each other out, right? So, but you do, and ask for forgiveness, and it does work. It does, but it's, okay. So any other things that you feel like you struggle with?
I eat fast, I talk fast, and I drive fast.
Yeah. Because you have somewhere to go.
I'm the
You
first
have
one done at
something to do.
dinner. I've got tickets to prove.
Yeah. How fast you drive.
And
I'm
the best
aggressive.
thing to do in a diet is slow down your eating, right? Yeah.
Right.
And then, of course, my mouth always gets me in trouble.
Right. Well, I talk so quickly that Katie calls me aggressive because I say I'm an aggressive driver, but I say it so fast that she thinks the word isn't aggressive. I'm an aggressive driver. And that's right, because we have places to go, things to get done. Because, 9 o'clock, David shuts down. We gotta hurry.
By the way, I'm in bed by 9. I get up at 4 and I'm exhausted.
Well.
I do tire. I don't know where she came from. Just so you know.
So there are subtle differences.
Not 100%.
It's not 100%.
Yeah, it's not 100%. Okay, so what is your job? Let's switch over, if you would, to the next slide, please. We're going to focus on Renee just for a little bit longer. Bear with us. I learned, by the way, these are all people who are, I don't know if you can see them.
Judge Judy?
Judge
Really?
Judy is a D.
Oh, yeah.
The previous slide had Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Michael Jordan, Barbara Walters, Peppermint Patty. This has John McEnroe and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Judge Judy. And I think you're starting to see these are just really people who don't care what other people think. Right?
And they're so well liked.
But we care. See, if you're a Christian, you care. Right? But anyway, so these people typically...
How she says it. Well, these are people that just don't care.
Sorry.
They're all about themselves.
No, but you know what I mean? Like John McEnroe, do you really think he cared when he was like, ah, when he would scream on the tennis court? He just wanted to get what he wanted. I think that's our personality. I'm not saying he doesn't, I mean, I'm sure maybe he was, tail between his legs later. I don't know, but okay. Anyway, you typically are an athlete. You typically are military. That should say personnel. Uh-oh, where are the C's? Oh, see, I thought I had C in me, but I put this together, so clearly I don't. Politicians, sales team leaders, CEOs of companies. So tell me what you do.
I'm the executive vice president of the Bear Foundation.
Does that surprise you even at all?
The Bear Foundation. Okay. And we're in 9 states.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, see? Driven people are
Crazy.
Emphasis is on shaping the environment by overcoming opposition to accomplish results, very results-oriented, task-oriented. They want to win. You don't want to play a board game with a D, because they'll just trample all over you. And I say that from experience.
Made your children cry, I bet.
What's that?
Your children cry when you play games.
It's true. I
like
just
games.
have the hardest time letting Katie win ever, because I just need to win.
And how old is Katie again?
8 years old.
It's like, suck it up.
Sorry. Okay. So, Paul.
Yes, ma'am.
How can Renee use all of this driven quality about her in productive ways outside of her career? So, like, if she wanted to serve in church or serve in her community, what are some things that you would recommend with her personality that you would steer her to do, since you have quite a bit of experience with this?
If we were looking solely at the D, then obviously what would be natural for you, because you said it a minute ago, you found yourself naturally falling into leadership positions, probably because you were a problem solver. You dared to take risks. You had goals in mind, and you were able to articulate those goals to the rest of the team. So you find yourself naturally in leadership positions. Now, if you say for church ministry, I mean that was one of the questions
Yes.
you threw in there.
Yeah.
So I would say naturally, again, just naturally, you might naturally find yourself looking to head up a ministry, or at least use part of what was on the previous slide, part of that,
Those skills.
those qualifiers, those traits, you would find yourself naturally there. Now, that does not always necessarily mean that just because you're a D, you put yourself in that peg for all of life.
Well, because the problem is, a D, if she's already very driven in her career, she doesn't have a lot of time to also lead things in ministry too, right? So that's the hardest part.
Well, I would dare to say that you're probably not a leader in every facet of your world.
No.
So there are, but you're a leader in a particular areas, such as work. So if we were to say solely on a D, for what they would be involved with culturally, societally, within a church walls, it doesn't necessarily mean just solely that.
Okay.
There are areas that, because you're driven by your personality, whether it's DIS or C, you will find those niches.
Okay.
You may find them in work, you may find them in family, you may find them in art or other venues,
I see.
but it may not necessarily come out in every
Or else you
area.
would just spiral out of control if you.
Correct, yeah. We all like variety. Again, part of the theory behind DISC is, I don't know if you covered this before I came in, but in theory, we have a little bit to a lot of all 4 of those, D-I-S-C. So you may read that paper in front of you and resonate with some of those words in every single box, and you should, because that's the theory behind this. Again, 2 are drivers, and the other 2 are minimal on that disc. Now, if you want me to give, are you asking for advice, like what should people here look for ministry opportunities if they are a D?
Well, yeah, raise your hand if you're a D. If you feel like you're a D based on what you've heard so far.
I would encourage you, if you are not involved in a ministry and you are not already in a driven capacity, in a capacity that allows you to use your natural gifts, talents, wiring, then look for opportunities within the church family to lead a ministry. Now, sometimes that takes, you don't just jump in
right
and become the CEO of a business at the age of 21. You have to,
Work your way up.
You have to learn the area and learn what the rules are, what the unspoken expectations are, and all of that. So you may not necessarily jump in and be the leader of whatever, but that may be a natural thing for you to look to. So.
Well, and chances are, if you're a D, you're not going to be quiet. So people in positions of authority to find ways to place you into leadership positions will find you very easily. And then next thing you know, you'll be up here because you just are very out there, Okay, so, and Renee actually teaches Bible study classes in the summertime. So she uses that gift of leading small groups of women, and she does a beautiful job at that. So that is her way of involving herself at church, and I'm sure she does similar things in the community. I know that she is very actively involved with her children's sports. So, but you can speak to other things that you do.
Neighbors, I love my neighbors.
Very
they don't
good.
speak well English, they speak a lot Italian, but we get along. I love my neighbors.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good. Okay.
So I butt into their lives, basically.
Yeah, and that's what we do well. Very good, yeah. And I think that's important. I think that there are people who need D's in their lives to...
Whether they know it or not.
Yes. There is the beauty of having us in your world. Try to embrace it. Okay, so let's move on, shall we, to the I. And what typically is somebody with an I personality? Well, let's look up here. I's are your entertainers. They are the people looking for a party. They contact people. Woohoo! They are articulate. They make a favorable impression. They create a motivational environment. They generate enthusiasm. They entertain people. They participate in a group. They view people and situations with optimism. They are just always smiley and bubbly and happy. And Jamie is our I. Raise your hand if you identify with any of those traits, do you think, already? Yeah, so there are a lot of I's in the room. Excellent. Yes, all the ones smiling, right? Okay, Jamie, what do you most see about yourself in that listing? And they're listed in front of you in yellow.
Well, I like to entertain people. I love to tell stories. Participating in a group. I would not like to lead a group, but I can just I'll be the one that you have to tell to shut up in the group because yeah. I'd be like talking about something that happened last night and not paying attention to the details of the group, what we're talking about. I teach preschool, and I think that is what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I love, to create things and have fun with the kids and everything. And I'm also an S, though, too, I think. So
you have a little bit of S in you.
So I would say what is what I is.
She's IS. She is what she is. I like that. Okay, so some of the traits that are required to be a preschool teacher that are that are I traits, are what? What do you think comes out?
I act silly, and they don't care.
Uh-huh.
I used to be a district manager for Aldi, and that job, it was not for me. Mm-hmm. I don't like to confront people when I have to, somebody's off on their drawer or discipline them or anything like that. That stressed me out to the max. I'll talk to you about anything else, but I don't want to talk to you about anything that's serious. But so I can be silly at this job and everything, and I just love it.
That's awesome. Well, now, what are some of the things that you struggle with that, as an I, you think are actually bad qualities that an I person might have that are a detriment to your life, that you wish maybe you could tone down a little bit?
Talking too much.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The eyes will identify
Hello,
themselves,
eye.
right? Yeah.
Talking too much. Not taking things seriously enough because I'll just joke around and, and it's not kind of appropriate sometimes. I'm like, oh, whoops. Yeah, sticking my foot in my mouth, saying something stupid. Sometimes I think the D's look at me like I'm crazy.
Not at all.
And then sometimes my husband's a D. I tell ya, he's like a scorpion, like stinging me sometimes. Those D's. But I'd like to be able to be more direct with people. When I have a problem or something. But I usually joke around about it.
Yeah, because you want everybody to be happy.
Exactly.
Smile, not
Exactly.
really. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's got to always be a party, or else you feel like
Yes.
maybe you've let somebody down. Is that?
Yes.
So what are some things that maybe?
When I throw a party, oh my gosh, yeah, I have to make sure everyone's having fun, and it stresses me out. I have to plan all these things. Yeah, make sure everyone's having a good time. But me having the S too, I am structured. And that's, I think, why I do well with preschool, too. I'm very, I have a schedule. I have a schedule at home, and I have a hard time getting off that schedule. If life throws me for a loop and I can't do my workout, I get, ticked off and stuff like that. But,
That's interesting because when you said the S, because that is a good secondary to an I, because it does help you to be able to keep a little bit more structure in your life, as you said. The typical high I is you're asking for maybe some other areas that may be weaknesses or some of those traits. They look at life so optimistically many times that they may walk through life naive and innocent and always thinking the best is going to happen.
blonde moments.
And,
I get blonde moments.
And well, in our society, they may call those moments blonde moments.
Sure.
But a lot of times, eyes will be very optimistic in that way. Sometimes their words do get them in trouble because they talk many times before thinking.
Yes.
And they will say what's on their heart,
Yes.
and
Oh,
they
yes.
they are very persuasive. Many times, eyes are very persuasive, so typically, eyes are very articulate. So even if you may speak something that immediately got you in trouble, you're probably good enough with words that you could talk long
Yes.
enough
I'll talk my
to
way
get
out of
yourself
it.
out of trouble in that same conversation.
That's awesome. That's
And
great.
my
Very good.
husband calls me an open book. And he gets mad at me sometimes because he's a D, and he gets mad at me. He's like, why do you have to share everything? And I'm like, well, I don't care. I don't have any, I'm not embarrassed at nothing. I am what I am, and I is what I is, And he gets mad, and then I'll be talking for like half an hour after church. He's like, are you ready to go yet? And
Yeah. Well, what did we learn about D's though? Right?
Yeah.
So that should help you now.
Yeah.
We learned that D's are quick.
Yeah.
They make quick decisions.
Yes.
They got to get somewhere.
Yes.
They are not emotional. They don't want to
just
feel.
for example, today, Mike's like, can you bring the kids down to the duplexes that we own? And I was like, well, no, I just need a no or a yes. No. Is that good? I'm not coming.
I can't wait for your husband to see this.
We love you, honey. We love you.
I love you though.
But my children, because of my eye, blindfold me to try to get me out of church.
It's
so I
true.
don't talk
Yeah.
to anybody.
It's true. Katie's tugging on my hand. Come on. Because
Yep.
I'm always like, all right, we're ready to go. And then like
Yep.
5 more minutes will go by. And so she never believes me when we're ready to go. Because, yeah. Wow, very interesting. Okay, so how do you use an eye in ministry? How do you use an eye in the community to serve others? Because there's talking so much, does anything ever get done?
Actually, I can answer that.
Yeah, help us out, Jamie.
Yeah, hello. Well, I teach Sunday school with the kids. That's kind of like my little niche, I guess, with the kids. But I'm a newer Christian, and I can be annoying. Because all I do is talk about it anymore. But the fact that I talk so much and am a newer Christian, I think I end up, telling everybody about my life and, what happened to me and, how Jesus helped me and everything like that. And
People like that.
Yeah.
Because it's a window into your soul. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stands for influence. Eyes are influencers. They are extroverts, and because of that, they will naturally gravitate towards opportunities that will allow them to be in public, to teach, and the audience may be 5-year-old class, but that's still an audience. Or it could be an outreach opportunity in the community somewhere. It could be prayer ministry that allows them to lead and talk and communicate.
Oh.
So eyes usually, naturally, may find themselves gravitating towards those opportunities that allow them an audience and allows them the opportunity to be able to speak and influence and persuade others around them.
Oh, and that's very true. I mean, it just didn't, from doing the little bit of research that I did.
As long as it's fun, though.
Right, as long as it's fun.
Yeah.
It's got to be a party or forget it. Well, these are typical eyes. There's all those others that you saw, and Will Smith, Jay Leno, Ellen, Bill Cosby. Your comedians, the people who just want you to laugh. They want to get the good laugh in. They are your professional marketers, your salespeople, your trainers, so educators too, probably in that, and entertainers. So you're right where you're supposed to be. Emphasis is on shaping the environment by persuading or influencing others. And isn't she a shaper by shaping the preschoolers that she's with? She's very fun-oriented, very enthusiastic. So that's what you'll find if you hang out with an I. And those are the ones who you just remember earlier on when I was talking, you just came because she's just so much fun to be around, right? That's why you're here. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the S. Your turn, this table. Okay, so we've moved from the extroverts to the introverts. So you need to expect like 1 or 2 word answers.
This will be over.
Okay, yeah, this will be over really fast. You'll get out of here in like 5 Okay, so let's take a look at S. Now remember, this is my husband, very steady, and we love S's in our lives. I have an S, very good S friend who calms me, keeps me grounded, and that's what my husband does for me. They are very consistent and predictable. That's why you can go to them for that calming that you need. They demonstrate patience. They help others. They're very loyal to you. They are a good listener because, usually, if your opposites attract, the S's are friends with the D's or the I's who do all the talking. So they need to just be able to sit there and listen to us. They calm, excited people. That's my favorite phrase because that's exactly what my husband does for me. Developing specialized skills, and they create a stable, harmonious work environment. And that is what my husband's secretary would say about my husband. It's awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about you, Tammy, and what do you kind of connect with on that page?
Well, I think I connect with everything except being a good listener. I have a hard time with that sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
So you probably aren't a full S.
My friend.
So you can't be.
That's the one thing you need.
Exactly. So Tammy, this will be our last communication. Sorry. It was nice knowing you. Okay. So you're saying that maybe you have a little. Right.
I can be, but
it gets exhausting listening to
it does.
us. I know. I can always tell when my husband has had enough. I could just see it on his face. Yeah. So then, what would you say you are besides an S? Do you have a little extra in you?
I think an I too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that typical? Yeah. Is it typical for S's and I's to be like? What's a typical mixture?
Typically, if you look at your page and just connect either D and I, or I and S, or S and C, or D and C. That's typical, where those that are touching each other, either sideways or on top of each other.
Interesting.
Those are typical. Now, I know people who are, say, DS or IC. Those are rare. Because those are very extreme opposite ends of the spectrum.
And I was always told the IC is prone to depression. Is that true? CIs?
I'm not sure how to answer that, to be honest.
Yeah, because in my
Bipolar.
No, not bipolar. No, not bipolar, but struggle with that being out there, but yet having to have the details. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I would say for Tammy, it would be natural for her to have some sort
that
of
connection to I.
I mean, when you're talking an S, they're either going to connect to an I or a C.
They're gonna go
And,
upper.
and knowing Tammy, working with Tammy, it would be natural. It is SI, yeah.
Because I
Oh,
have my
okay.
days that I want to be with people and want to socialize, and then there's other time, like in the neighborhood, I could go out and talk to everybody one day, and then the next day I just want to go to my car. Yeah.
Interesting you say that. When we were newly married again, see, my poor husband, I'm sharing all the secrets, but when we were newly married, he would work all week. He has a very stressful job, and he's with people all the time, has to talk for his job, lawyer and everything. So he would come home, and I'd be like, all right, Friday, let's go out, let's have some fun. And he's like, I have had enough of people. I want to go to my man cave and hide and not talk to anybody. And I was like, why? I couldn't understand that. So now I understand if he's had one of those weeks. And so you're saying there are times when you need that. But if you get that in your work or
Yes.
throughout the week, then maybe you have had it and you just need some.
I think that's it, because I love it. Like, I'm here from 8:30 to 2, and I'm all about that. But then once I leave and do my routine of picking the kids up and getting home, then it's like, okay,
Wow.
the evening. I think it's because I'm getting older, too.
Well,
Because I wasn't like that before. But as I'm getting older, I'm changing, too. I can tell.
well, that's true. Yeah, I think you kind of fall into different personalities, and maybe you
Yeah.
take a little from here and a little from there. All right. Well, so besides being a good listener, you said all the rest of them are really in your wheelhouse.
pretty much.
And note the contradiction with good listener, but you're not. Think about what the I part is.
Good
Eyes
talker.
like to talk. So that's probably where the trade-off is,
Sure.
why that does not fit for you.
Right.
That's awesome that you see that in yourself. All right. Well, now let's take a look at what eyes do for a living, and this will just kill you.
Oh.
They are typically, notice all of your, not I's, S's, you're on S, sorry. S's are your steady people. So Princess Di, Mahatma Gandhi, Pope John Paul II, Laura Bush, sorry, thank you. They are really your steady people. You're going to get, usually that calming effect when you talk with them. They are just naturally lovely to be around. And they are your nurses, your secretaries, and your personal assistants. And what are you for your living?
Secretary.
Secretary. Here at church. She's at the secretary of church. So isn't that interesting how everybody up here is really using what their personality is in their career path, and hopefully they're finding ways to connect in church ministry and in the community and volunteer work as well with what they can do. The emphasis is on cooperating with others within existing circumstances to carry out the task. They are very love-oriented, very supportive. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
Yeah? So how are you with your family? Tell us a little bit about your family.
That's pretty much me.
Yeah?
Yeah, my husband is a D.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so she said, yours is like being stung by a scorpion. That's kind of, yeah. But then it was funny because there are days like that. But then I was reading the action plan, what I need.
Yeah, isn't
And
that
that's all
interesting on
him.
there? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I notice when, like, things that get to me, when we're not together and I'm in charge, it's kind of like I've gotten used to him leading and being in charge, so I'm kind of lost. It's
Sort of
like,
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Exposed almost.
Yeah, like I
Interesting.
have to be in charge. I have to be the D now.
And that's hard if
that
that's
is
not your
hard.
personality. When you're
No.
thrust into those roles, it's very difficult, sure.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so what would you say besides that, what are some other things that you struggle with as an S that you wish you could maybe even change about yourself? If not that you should, because we're supposed to embrace who we are, embrace the person that God created us to be. But
Maybe being, I don't know, more patient with those other personalities.
I think she meant us.
Others.
yeah,
Because even though we're calm and steady inside,
you're not.
no. So, yeah.
That's awesome to hear that, because I just think nothing rattles my husband. But
Yeah, I think it
He's
does.
irritated with you.
Yes, he's irritated more than
with
you.
me often, I'm sure, yeah. Makes me appreciate him more now, knowing that. Okay.
So,
You're
Oh,
the
great.
ones that are looking at me going, I'm looking at you going, what are you thinking because of what I just said? Like,
Yeah, well, that's true, because
Yeah.
the S's are, you're not going to, that's the one thing, and that's why there's so much conflict sometimes between personalities, right? Because and I'm just speaking because I live with it for 12 years, my husband, so I can speak to this. When something great happens to me, I am a D, and I expect drama. I expect him to be like, woohoo, that was awesome, and all he's is like, it's great.
yeah. Like, you look at me like I'm
Their
crazy.
facial expression is usually the same. That's why they're so lovely, because you're not going to get a rise out of them. Really? Am I right about that? Do you feel that way? Like that people can count on you to be steady all the time. But sometimes that's good. We like somebody that we can look to that's going to just give us that steady calming. But sometimes we need you to be like, yes, woohoo, just be all excited, and you have one emotion sometimes. I'm not being nice, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how I see it. I think and unfortunately, that's how do you see it that way sometimes? I don't know.
I think you're over the top sometimes.
Sting, sting.
Because we're competing. We're in competition.
Okay, well,
She doesn't care what she thinks either.
I'm not wounded. She can say whatever she wants.
do you forgive me?
There's no need, because tomorrow I'll probably say something just as bad to you.
But I do agree with you, and then there's some, when we offend, and we do, they won't tell us.
Yeah.
And there's some passiveness that goes on in relationships. And so sometimes, if you sense that there's a problem between you and someone, I have learned to go up and say, you know what, can we work this out? And to be the one to start that conversation with folks like Tammy,
Awesome.
to reach and pull that out, because they're not going to tell me, but I'm going to see it.
Yeah. And you know what I would say? You think I'm crazy, don't you? That's kind of like my way of saying, let's talk. Do you think I'm seriously crazy? You think I'm...
But it's important that you recognize how God's made other people, and they're created in God's image, and we're all in this together.
Right.
And the important thing is the relationship.
That's right. And
Not-
so not to take it personally if they're not, doing cartwheels because something really great happened to you. That's just not in their personality to do that. Although I know enough about you, Tammy, that I think you would do cartwheels for me.
I would.
Yeah.
Want me to do
So just put that little bug in David's ear that I expect cartwheels next time.
Okay.
Okay. So what else? So what would you encourage Tammy to do? I mean, she's already here at church being the secretary,
Be
but
one of my
it's,
secretaries. Yeah.
yeah, it's just. But besides that, like, where do you see her volunteering in the church in other areas? Would she be leading a Bible study, or would she be serving behind the scenes in some way?
As just a true high S that may not have, say, I in her. Look at this. These two tables, extrovert, introverts, right?
That's it. Mm-hmm.
And so a natural position, a natural opportunity for an S to find themselves in would be maybe behind the scenes,
Okay.
doing something quiet, doing something where they will never be out in the public and be recognized for it. So maybe running sound, or doing something somewhere between Monday and Friday for Sunday, but it's already done before Sunday comes.
Okay.
I mean, and honestly, you appreciate your role probably because you're not on the platform. This up here is probably very uncomfortable, and even the weeks leading up to it, you probably lost sleep thinking about being up here in front of people. But they should naturally look for opportunities that will be behind the scenes.
Okay.
A caregiver opportunity, say maybe working with a nursing home, or working with nursery, where you're caring, knowing that you're not going to get much in return. You're just giving of yourselves.
Just giving. Oh, yes.
Because they are the nurturer. They are naturally the nurturer. They are naturally the caregiver. They are naturally the steady, stable, quiet person.
Okay.
And
So when
that's
I get
true,
old,
'cause-
I need to find a good S to take care
You're
of.
not going to get a word in. Don't try. See, look, she just let Renee just go right, just
that's
roll right
true.
over top of her. No.
Like at
I'm sorry,
home,
go
I
ahead.
have to be careful because I tend to overdo for them, for my kids and my husband, because I think, oh, I could do it quicker. I'll just grab it for them, which that's not doing them any good. And then I'm getting worn out. I'm running around and, but that's what I like to do.
You like to just serve.
It's not healthy for
serve
them,
behind
or
this.
me.
I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
you're making it too easy for them. Okay.
You had asked Tammy about, you didn't use the word weaknesses, but let's say,
Struggles,
what
things
are
that
the
you struggle with.
struggles, what are the weaknesses of an S? And you didn't identify this, but I think you did. They do not naturally like to confront. And so S's are passive, but part of that introverted. And again, this isn't bad. It is celebrate how God has wired you.
That's exactly right. We need people
But
like
be
that.
aware of it, because if you don't naturally confront, guess what? People will walk all over you, and they may not ever know it, that they've hurt you or offended you, or you feel like you've been taken advantage of.
I see.
So as an S, if you are an S, and that is a natural tendency, is to not confront and not pursue some sort of reconciliation, I would encourage you, do work up that courage to confront, do work up that courage to pursue that reconciliation.
Oh, that's good
I
advice.
agree, 'cause
Excellent.
I've come along in that way
Yeah?
because I used to get walked on a lot, and it's like
So now you've taken
yeah,
a stand.
That's right.
That's good.
But it's easier for me. I mean, like I'm not going to confront in the same way you would probably, but I will.
That's good.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll
Now,
spend a week on it, thinking about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would have to work
She'll spend a
up
week
to
on
it.
it, thinking about
Right.
it.
that's
about
it,
it,
chewing
yeah.
on it. And so that bears the question, because now Ds expect a quick answer. So if you're a D, but you're with an S in a relationship of some sort, then you need to give them time to think and get all the facts and to know. Don't expect them to say yes or no very quickly. They're going to need time. Am I right about that? Okay, so we're trying to build relationships here so that you can better understand the people that either you live with or that you come into contact with at your work or in church, so that you can really see them for where they're coming from, a certain personality, and we want you to be able to appreciate that in them and not hold it against them. Okay? Good. Very good. Okay. So, Julia, let's move on to you. What does a person with a predominant score of C mean about your personality? And how many people think you're a C out here?
I don't think they've heard
Not a
enough
lot of
about it
people
yet.
want to admit that. Right. Yay. Oh, woohoo! Say it with pride! Jen is saying it with pride. Very good. Okay, a C is a person who adheres to directives and standards. There are key details that they concentrate on. So I'm sure that typo, I'm so sorry, Jen. Being diplomatic with people, so wanting to cut to the chase to make sure that you get just exactly the detail that you need. Analyzing performance critically.
Which is why they can't raise their hand yet. They're still analyzing whether or not.
Yeah, they don't know for sure.
They're weighing the pros and cons of what it's going to mean if I raise my hand. Are they going to call on me to do something now? They use subtle and indirect approaches to conflict and a systematic approach to situations or activities. Okay, so a lot of that is a little heavy. Can you Paul, can you tell us, what does that really mean? What are the key tendencies for a C person? Because
A C has natural C has high standards. They need controls. They need routines. They need that structure, and they pay attention to details.
Okay.
They master the details of an issue or an organization or numbers or data. I mean,
so they're numbers people.
They can master the details. It may not always come out in numbers, but as an example.
That numbers could be the finite way that it comes out. Okay. All right, so look at some of our famous C people up here. Martha Stewart, right? Just so perfect in all that she creates. You just look at it and think, wow. Nancy Kerrigan, when she was ice skating, she was always flawless. It was always beautiful. She just appeared perfect. Monica from Friends, constantly cleaning, constantly overanalyzing things, and just uptight, right? Okay. So, Julia, tell us about you. Where do you see yourself
I'm
on
not
that?
constantly cleaning first. You can ask my mother.
Mother's over there. Julia's mother's saying, no, that's exactly right. Okay, so.
Definitely very focused on details.
Yeah?
Analytical, so that leads to weighing pros and cons.
Yeah?
When making decisions, I really have to think about them a lot. So that causes me to be indecisive, or at least appear indecisive.
Okay.
But to me, I'm just still going over
Processing.
it. Yeah, I'm still processing it.
Wow. Okay.
So,
All right. So, what do you see are strengths of your personality? Sorry, words just sometimes are hard for me. Okay. So, what do you see are some strengths that you have in some of your behaviorisms? Some of the things that you say or do. What are things?
I don't make rash decisions.
That's a good
So
thing.
all of my decisions are really thought through. I guess part of it is I fear making the wrong decision, of course, which most people do, but I have a fear of regret. So I have to make sure that I'm sure about my decision before I make it.
Okay.
So that's caused me to, know that the decisions that I have made haven't been rash, and I don't make a lot of the decisions based on emotions. They're usually logic-based.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So do you often find yourself making little charts like pros and cons and writing it out?
Sort of, but I visualize it.
So
I'm
mental.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I have done that before, though.
Have you ever made a spontaneous decision ever?
Yeah, but it's usually something that I've been able to say, if I just make this decision, there's no possible terrible outcome to it.
Okay.
So I'll make it like go to Taco Bell at 2 a.m.
Right. Something that's just really low key. It's not like a
really
future,
low
it's
key,
not
like
determining
nothing
your
that's
future.
gonna affect
Your
have
future.
a wide ripple.
Okay. So it can just be something pretty quick and into the. So if your friends are like, "Hey, let's do this."
Yeah,
and
I'm a last minute person, which
Oh.
might be surprising.
Well, that is. Yeah.
But I'm
Actually, I don't know that it would be, because you probably stress perfectionistic tendencies. Many times that will almost handcuff a person from making those decisions. What do I do to make this perfect?
That's
Therefore,
true.
I can't make a decision yet.
right.
So
I
it
can't
winds up
make it
being
yet
a
until I
last
know
minute
for
decision.
sure that I wouldn't rather be doing something else. Like I kind of feel anxiety when I make plans too far ahead, because I'm like, wait, what if there's something else that I want to be doing on that day or something like that? So I guess that does make sense.
So it has to be something that's really enticing or intriguing for you in order for you to commit
Yeah,
to something.
because I'll know. Yeah, I definitely want to be doing that.
Okay.
Or if I know God wants me to do it, that's a completely. God really has allowed me to step out, and if I feel like He's leading me, that's totally different than my emotions leading me.
Okay.
So that'll allow me to make decisions faster than I would normally make them.
That's awesome. How do you know that you've heard from God?
Usually, I know with some people, it will be a feeling. Sometimes I get confused on if it is like me feeling it, or if it's God, placing that feeling in me. Like when I was trying to decide if I was supposed to go to India, I really felt like I wanted to go to India, but I didn't know if that was just me really wanting to go, or if God had placed that desire in my heart. And so that took me a really long time deciding. So I kind of took that, and then from there, I prayed about it and said, God, you know that, I'm having this problem deciding if this is me or if this is you. So I really need you to give me some other, reassurance that it is you. And he did give me some other, I talked with people who I really respect, like people in the church and stuff, and them kind of giving me more confirmation gave me the courage to realize, oh yeah, this is God, he does want me to do that. So sometimes it takes a little more filtering. Sometimes it isn't just a feeling in me knowing that it's God. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is really strong that I know it's God.
Okay.
So.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. She just came back from a missions trip to India, for those who are new to our church or new to Ladies and Lattes and don't know that. So, and that's huge to step out in faith and go someplace completely foreign like that. So I'm sure for her, she really weighed that out and yeah, for a C person. Okay, so.
Can I say something?
What, I figured you'd want to, yes. No.
C's are perfect for people like me because, say I want to find a doctor, I just wait for her to pick one, and then I do go to that one too.
Because they have.
Because I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Or I rely on Trish down there to tell me stuff. I'm like, oh, and she analyzes all the numbers and stuff. Oh, okay, good. I don't have to look at it.
Yeah. The C's are probably those people who read Consumer Reports. Right?
Yeah, I just go to them. I'm like, I don't want to read that.
I do.
Right. It's true. They study the right product and make sure. And I know. I just don't understand.
Find a good C in your life, and then it makes it easier.
It's true. That's a very good point. So, okay.
But she is a marketer's dream.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
marketer. They put it in a new package. You're going to buy it. That's a marketer's dream.
Oh, I see.
She'll make quick decisions.
Quick
and buy
decisions.
quick. She's
Yeah.
an
Whereas,
impulsive.
Yeah.
right. So Consumer Reports probably doesn't really want to see people reading all the fine print. They really want the eyes reading that. But well, okay. So what do you suggest for? Well, let's get to know Julia a little bit more. Sorry. Let's look at what C people tend to do for a living. They tend to be your engineers, your Bill Gates. Your Diane Sawyers, your Tom Brokaw's, Spock, your scientists, your accountants, those very intellectual people. Emphasis is on working conscientiously within existing circumstances to ensure quality and accuracy. And thank God for these people, right? Fact-oriented, very perceptive. We need people like that in our lives. So even though I chide them for being so analytical and uptight, I think that they really do bring our world beauty. We really need them. So tell me what you do, Julia, for either your future career choice or your current path that you're on.
Well, I am a student. I get straight A's. Because
Shock.
that is my standard. But I guess this will be cool to share. I'm an artist. However, I do love science. I love chemistry.
Ooh.
I got a chemistry award last semester.
Yay!
And I really wrestled with, well, how is art gonna be paired with science? Those seem like they're just on polar ends with each other. But I did realize that my attention to detail has drawn me to both sides. You know what I mean? I like drawing realistically. I'm really attentive to those details. And I discovered something called medical illustration. And those people have to be really detail oriented. They're making charts for surgeries and body parts and stuff like that that have to be really accurate. But they also have to be good artists. So that's what I'm headed towards. I'm also a musician.
Yeah, she plays sometimes up in our, a lot, not just sometimes, up on stage for praise and worship music at church. And she played at TLC recently on Tuesday mornings with our ladies group. So she is very gifted musically too. Well, good. Okay. So then, because she is in the praise and worship band and does play music and so on, is she then missing any opportunity to serve elsewhere with the C gift that she has?
The C's and the S's, they are the behind-the-scenes people.
Okay.
They do not want to naturally be in front of people. The difference between the two, between Tammy and between Julia is, I'm talking generally speaking.
Yeah, right.
The S may want to work behind the scenes with people,
Okay.
whereas the C's may want to work behind the scenes with details
Oh, okay.
and master those details. And if you think about any church, whether it's a large facility or a small body, the magic is in the details, right?
Okay.
I mean, think about the details that had to go on to make this happen here. And
Yes.
it probably, if you did not have other people around you
Yes.
doing the details, it probably would have driven you crazy. And the details that you did pay attention to drove you crazy.
Yes.
Someone like this right here would be a wonderful person to come alongside of you, and you have the vision for something as a D, you have the goal, you have the plan, and a C can come behind and take care of all of the minutia.
Right.
So, and every church needs C
C's,
personalities
sure,
to be able
to
to
make
take care
sure
of
that
those
that
details.
happens. Excellent.
On a side note, C's are, many times you will find that C's are artistic, creative. I don't know if it's the attention to detail. I've not studied this, but I have seen that pattern. Pastor Timothy is one of the two of his parts of his personality is C.
He's our worship leader. He's the leader of all the music and the
He is
musicals
very artistic. He speaks in language and thinks in ways that most of the other pastors, because most of us are not C's, we look confused sometimes when he's talking in that artistic way. But you will find though that many times, because of that artistic side, maybe if you are a C, music might already be a natural tendency for you, and I would encourage you look into the music ministry as well as maybe an outlet to be able to minister.
All right. Well, okay, so I'm just thrilled that we got to know each a little bit about each one of them, but we're going to ask them a few more questions. How has God been able to use your personality to impact others in a positive way? So try to think of an example of a time when you feel as though God has really given you a victory and you've been able to trace it back to, this is how he made me, and I'm embracing it, and I tapped into my personality, and I was successful in doing that. So give us an example of a time, if you can. And maybe, I don't know if you want to start, Renee, but whoever is ready or can chime in.
Somebody ready right off?
I'm gonna think a little
I'm
bit.
gonna go last.
Go for it.
So we'll give Julia time to think about it. Okay. Okay.
Well, I don't know if it fits my D personality, but more my I and the influencing of people. I've seen God use me to help. I'm not an evangelist. I can't lead you to Christ. It seems like when I witness, it doesn't go anywhere. So if you have loved ones that need to know the gospel first, send them to someone else, because people I witness to, they just don't get it, and I don't know why, but that's not my gifting. But I believe my gifting is development. And after you're saved, I have seen God use me in teaching people about Christ and who he is. And I think God has allowed me to be very open. I come from a very diverse background. I was not raised Christian. I got saved many times because I was trying to do good works, so I kept going to the altar. I figured I'd get it one time or another, but I was trying to get it on my goodness and not on faith. But I go to a massage therapist, and it's my ministry. I'm just saying. And
You can keep saying that to yourself.
She's
That's fine.
fabulous. When I started going to her, she's Catholic. She was Catholic, and I would talk to her about the Lord, and I was going through some very difficult times, but I was clinging to God, and I was communicating that to her. And one day, out of the blue, she comes in. She has a cousin who's also a Christian. She came out of the blue. She comes in, to start working on my stiff neck, and she says, "I'm born again." And I'm like, Well,
What's that?
how'd that happen? She was born again like you wouldn't believe, and so on fire. And so I would go.
Can you explain for the people who are visiting who may not understand what that means? I'm sorry.
Well, as she accepted Jesus Christ by faith as her Savior, and that it wasn't by her works. She remained in Catholicism for many, many, many years. I mean, and because she felt like God was using her there. And, you know, we talked about the differences in denominations and how God uses, and that it doesn't mean if you're Catholic or you're not Catholic, if you're, you know, it doesn't define you. It's your relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I was able to bridge that with her, but I would go twice a month because I was ministering. I was not getting a massage. It was not about me.
Clearly.
And I would just spend time talking with her because I love God's word, and she would just soak it up like a sponge, and I just was thrilled. And now I keep
It's a beautiful story.
now years. This has been years. I started with her when my son was born in 2002. And so I still go to her because it's still a ministry. Just keep that, Mike, it's still my ministry, honey.
If you're listening.
But now I'm learning from her, and I make sure I tell her that because I want her to know that, I'm not up here. She's
Right.
really come a long way. And she's an S. And so she just is a caretaker and a caregiver, and I learn from her the love she has for her family, and she's just a precious person, and I believe that God used my gift of development to develop people and to draw her out, to help her to grow in Christ. I did not lead her to Christ. I know that. I witnessed to her. I might have been a person in the link, but...
Well, a lot of people come into our lives, they have planted seeds in our lives, and those seeds grow a little, and then they get watered by somebody else, and then they grow a little more and get watered by somebody else. And I think that's what might have happened in her life, and you just came along at a time when that plant might have really sprouted, and she just needed somebody to feed it a little bit more, and was ready for all of that food. And that's great.
Yeah, and she had some struggles, and I understand those in the field that I work in. And so there was just a great mix, and she's just an amazing
That truly
person.
is a victory. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so Jamie.
Okay, so I have to go after that?
You told me to go first.
It's okay. Any small victory will do, but just something where you know that your personality that God gave you really spoke to
Yeah, I
that.
actually got something, but we don't have all night, right? So,
Yeah.
well, just the fact that I am very talkative and outgoing. I think that when people come into our church, I go up and say hi to them and stuff. I'll talk to anybody. I am, like I said, newer Christian. I wasn't raised Christian. I was Catholic for a little bit. My life before I was saved, I truly indulged in my eye.
Had a lot of fun.
Had a lot of fun, went to college, and I'm like a walking spokesperson that, like, you might not have been following God, but God was like following you the whole time, waiting. When are you gonna wake up, Jamie? Hello, when are you gonna look up and notice me? Because I could sit and tell stories and things like that, and look back and like, well, God must have had my back. He must have, because he had other plans for me, because my life could have turned out a lot different.
Awesome.
So, me being an open book, sorry, Mike, I'll talk to people about stuff in my past and things like that, and I think it makes them feel better too, because nobody's perfect, right? We all
That's
have
exactly right.
things in our lives and stuff that we're not too proud of and whatever, and the fact that I'm willing to share it, I think then other people open up to me too and stuff.
Yeah, our God is a very forgiving God, and He just cares about your heart. That's exactly right. Excellent. Well, good. Good. And that's good. Keep sharing. That's awesome. Tammy, anything that was a victory?
Sorry. I just think, like, when there's messy situations, I can't. Well,
It's okay if
I
you can't think of a specific
some,
example, but I'm sure
yeah,
you bail people out of their messy
Yeah.
situations a lot.
But I think I've grown too, because I always thought, oh, I need to fix this, and I can't fix anything. God has to do it. So I enjoy speaking into people's lives or helping them, but then it's got to be God. So I think I've learned when to jump in and when to back off.
Good.
Which is good.
That's very discerning.
Because I used to take it really personally.
Sure.
If I can't fix this, so then I
Yeah.
I'm all crazy for days inside.
Sure.
But yeah.
Wow. Very good. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And Julia,
Have you had
did,
enough
did I
time?
give you enough time?
I don't have a specific example, but I think a way that all C's can be effective is, since we are really attentive to the details, when it comes to communicating the gospel or a message in an efficient way, I think that we can really think through that. So if it's like media or a poster that's based on communicating a message or a feeling or something like that, we're going to be the ones to really think through that. And I think that's one reason why we're artists, because we're definitely thinkers. And even in art school, they're always saying, you know, well, why did you draw it this way? Why did you use these colors? Like, what were you trying to communicate using those? So it's more the things that, you know, maybe these two don't think about, the subliminal things, like why did this make you feel a certain way when you saw it or when you heard it? And so I really think that we can be effective that way. And through, you know, my music, I've been able to, you know, sometimes it's hard for me to like ad-lib or just come up with stuff on the spot because I want to think about it. And so when I write music, I'm able to really think through my lyrics and stuff. But then I'm also able to go out and sing those songs and get that message out. And I was able to think about it beforehand too. So
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. We need people like that who make sure that we're not doing something that is inappropriate, or that, you know, when you could really do it a simpler way or whatever. You balance us all out. That's great. All right, so we're going to have a quick little review. See if you've all been paying attention. All right. These are by personality. Getting on an elevator on a business morning, how does each type behave? All right. You wait in line, but it's too crowded, so you take the stairs. The non-people person. Well, just wait until the end. Be the C for once and analyze all of them before you. Okay. Hold the elevator to let others in, or holds the elevators to let others in. Says always room for one more. Like party on the elevator. Walks up, gets on the elevator, pushes the button to close the door. The elevator door says, "Got things to do."
maybe that's D.
Counts the number of people on the elevator, and if it exceeds the limit, makes somebody get off.
I do always look at the number, yeah.
All right, maybe show us the answers. Did you guess S? That's totally my husband. There's too many people. So I don't need to be,
Yeah, I do.
I want to avoid conflict of trying to push somebody out of the way to get it, so I'm just going to take the stairs. So avoiding. Holding the elevator, that's Jamie.
Yeah, I'd
She's
be like
over there.
giggling to like, you know, sorry, but I'm coming in.
Yeah, like, right. She's just, let's have a party. There's so many of us. What's your name? Tell me about yourself. Then the next one is us. We're just like, you know what? Just let's cut to the chase. Get on there. We got things to do, places to go. The D's. And then, of course, the C's are very concerned about the details and, you know, got to follow the rules, the guidelines of the elevator. Okay. All right. So you got that right now? So you're all experts at the disc too? Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next slide. In summary, generally speaking, D's are results oriented. They are the people who want things to get done. I's are people-oriented, and there are S's, obviously, who are people-oriented because they are family-oriented, so they're a little bit more smaller people-oriented, smaller groups of people. And the C's are very detail-oriented. You should have gotten that. Now, how does that work in business or in the career sector? The D comes up with the idea. So the mastermind, we had Sharon Dahm, who's a D. She came up with the whole idea of Ladies and Lattes, okay? The I sells the idea to everybody, says come on board. The S does all the work.
Gosh,
which is the Jill of our team. She did all the work. And the
Poor
C,
guys.
and she has C, a lot of C in her too. She checks it for accuracy, but I didn't show her my PowerPoint or she would have caught that typo totally. So, okay. So why really did we gather together tonight? There's so much more I wish we had time to talk with these ladies about, but time has is fleeting. But the next slide there, please, is all about love. Okay, and 1 Corinthians tells us that love is patient and kind, and that it is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. Well, at least coming from the extrovert here, where we oftentimes can be not very patient, not very kind, sometimes rude, and sometimes very abrasive or boastful, that's not part of our personality. So we often come across as not being loving, and that's not what we want. And we want people to know that we are, trying to walk in love, but it just doesn't come naturally to us sometimes. So you have to bear with us. If you are in relationships with D people, or if you are a D person, then you totally understand this. The love does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of being wronged. And I think that S people, that sometimes is, we think that they're not keeping a record because they seem to just love us unconditionally.
They're keeping a record.
But they are, and we need to be aware of that. But they're just so good at holding it in, right? It's hard to read that, so let me flip to anyway, keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith. It always is hopeful and endures through every circumstance. And so what I really wanted was for us to realize from all of this that we need to walk in love more. And that the reason to know about who you are is so that you can love yourself first, because God wants you to love yourself. But the other reason our team put all of this together is because we want you, now that you have a knowledge of who you are, you can walk with a purpose so you can serve the Lord better. But then once you do that, you also need to walk in love with those around you, because all they're trying to do is serve the Lord with their purpose too. And if you butt heads with them, then no one's serving and nothing's happening, right? So it's very important that we know that. So because walking in love is difficult, we need somebody to come forward to pray us through that. And Jill?
Can I say one more thing? Not that that's surprising to you.
I know.
But
No, of course you can. Of course you can.
We use the DISC personality profile at work for hiring as well. And one of the things that is that Christ displays all the personality styles in their strengths, that he's perfect in all the personality styles, that he incorporates them all. We see him in the Bible as a D. We've seen him in the Bible as an S, as a C. He incorporates them all. And that's something to remember, that we're one in Christ, and our personalities are one in Christ as well. So that's one of the things that I try to remind myself, that Jesus was an S too.
I'm just teasing Tammy.
So we have to love them.
I'm teasing you.
Okay, ladies, let's hear it for our panelists, the women who are brave enough to come up here.
Yeah, that's okay. I wasn't listening. See, I'm clapping.
And Pastor Paul on his expertise and bravery to come here tonight. And for Mary and the countless hours that she put in to prepare. We just want to thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope that just through the last couple of hours that you can maybe see yourself in one of these areas. You can embrace it. I was one of those people that cried when I saw mine, but I've learned to embrace it. Not that I have to be what it says on that paper, but we're all different. God made us all special, and if we can have grace towards each other, knowing that we're all perfect in His sight, I think that could further us in a good way.